This is the Corsair Frame 5000 DRS, and this PC case has Modify Me written all over it. It has panels inside and outside that can totally be swapped. It has considerations for custom loops, support for a 420mm radiator, multiple fan mounts, and its cable management potential is nearly limitless. But did they fix those dang front rails that we struggled with on the Frame 4000D? Well, we're going to find out about all that and more right here, right now on Robeytech, after a word from our sponsors, us. This video is brought to you by our official Robeytech build mat. If you've been watching the channel for a while, you'll probably recognize it. We love these things. They're super thick and durable, and they're absolutely huge in size, measuring at 5.5mm thick and 24 by 48 inches wide. This one that we have right here, man, this has been in the studio for like 4 years, and it's still holding up great, no problem. We've also included all sorts of useful graphics showing different PC form factor sizes, including schematic diagrams and connectors you'll encounter probably during your PC build. Not to mention, there's plenty of open space for screw and tool organization. We designed it like this so no matter what skill level of builder you are, it could be a helpful tool for pretty much everyone. Now, you can find these build mats for sale on our Newegg store, and it's a great way to support us directly if you enjoy the content we make. Thank you so much for your support, and let's get back to the video. Well, Corsair has done it again. They've taken one of their iconic cases and given it a new lease on life. But rather than slapping a fresh coat of paint on it and calling it a day, Corsair gave the 5000D a complete structural redesign to make it a far more modular case than its namesake. We saw this with the Frame 4000D not too long ago, but one of that case's defining features was one that we had issues with. While we won't hold that against the Frame 5000 DRS, we do want to know if Corsair improved on the idea or leave us wishing they just left it on the cutting room floor. As we get started, we do want to say thank you to Corsair for sending us over the Frame 5000 DRS so that we could build inside of it, test it, and so that we could give you a Robeytech Ultimate Case review of the Corsair Frame 5000 DRS today. Let's get to know it a bit better, starting with prices and models. At the time of this video, the Frame 5000 DRS was available in either black or white with 2 different configurations. The Frame 5000 DRS with 4 of their RS140 non-RGB performance fans for around $190, and the Frame 5000D RS ARGB with 4 of their RS140 ARGB fans for around $200. So no IQ Link or stripped down case option just yet, which, to be honest, I kind of wish there was at least an IQ Link version. We're looking at the $200 Frame 5000D RS ARGB. So our comparisons and comments will focus on that specific model. We'll also be calling the case the Frame 5000D throughout the rest of the review. Just know that we're talking about the Frame 5000D RS ARGB whenever we mention it by name. With that, let's start looking at comparable cases. In the $175 to $225 range, we see cases like the Asus TUF Gaming GT502 Horizon, the newly redesigned NZXT H9 Flow RGB, and the Be Quiet Light-Based 600LX. As far as physical dimensions go, the Frame 5000D, believe it or not, is actually very close to the 7000D in its width and length. But its height is actually closer to the 2024 NZXT H7 Flow. When it comes to weight, the Frame 5000D weighs in at around 28 pounds or 12.7 kilograms. Comparatively, the weight is similar to cases like the Fantex Eclipse G500A and the new NZXT H9 Flow RGB. These cases are also the same weight as a laundry basket filled with towels or that of an average toddler. As for I/O and controls, the Frame 5000D has 4 USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type A port, 1 USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type C port, a combo audio jack, and it has a power button that is located at the bottom and the front of the case. Now these ports and power buttons are located, like I said, right here on the bottom front, which is great if your PC is sitting on your desktop, but it's not so great if your PC is on the ground, like a monster. Now the Frame 5000D has a mostly toolless design for getting inside of the case, but you will want a Phillips head screwdriver on deck because you can pretty much tear this case down to the frame, hence the name. Like the Frame 4000D, the Frame 5000D has a number of interchangeable panels that can be purchased later, including the Xeneon Edge touchscreen LCD panels and an extra fan mount. Or if you have a friend that's building inside an oppositely colored Frame 5000D, you can totally swap parts like you're trading Pokemon cards. For motherboards, the Frame 5000D can fit Mini ITX, Micro ATX, and ATX motherboards, as well as eATX motherboards with a width of up to 277mm. Just like the Frame 4000D, we're pretty confident that the Frame 5000D can handle EATX boards, but just be sure to stay within the Corsair specs. The Frame 5000D also supports back connect style motherboards, so your Project Stealth, your Project Zero, and BTF boards will all fit in there. What we really appreciate about this though is the amount of space in the back chamber of the case that allows for all of your cable connections without worrying about wonky pressure from contorting cables when you plug them into the back, especially that big fat 24 pin. And just like the Frame 4000D, the whole motherboard tray can be removed from the case, so if you want to swap trays with another Frame 5000D like we were talking about before, you totally could. Or if you absolutely needed to install your motherboard outside of the case, you could totally do that too. It's just a little tricky to get back inside of the case, so be aware. Now moving on to GPU support, the Frame 5000D can fit GPUs with a max length of 450 millimeters. This is more than enough room to handle just about any GPU on the market at the moment, including some of those super big 5090s. But as always, we'd recommend that you check with your GPU manufacturer to make sure that your GPU of choice can fit inside of this case. There is also a built-in GPU support bracket, which is nice if you're horizontally mounting your GPU, but one thing to be mindful of here. See, if you're using a GPU with more rounded edges, like a Zotac, or fans that sit flush with the chassis of the GPU, so they're right there, the support bracket might get in the way of that last fan. We saw this with our 40 series Zotac GPU, and even now with our brand new white series one that you're seeing right here. This won't be an issue, however, if you're looking at using a vertically mounted GPU. Corsair makes this pretty easy by allowing the entire PCI lane bracket section to rotate to align with vertical GPUs. Moving on to support for fans and cooling, the Frame 5000D has tons of room for radiator support, including support for up to 360 millimeter radiators in the case front and the side, assuming you're going to swap the side panel for the included mounting bracket, as well as basically a 420 millimeter radiator at the case top. So there's no shortage of options here, whether you're planning a custom loop or if you're looking at using one of those liquid cooled GPUs. As for fans, the Frame 5000D is actually a bit more expansive thanks to Corsair's InfiniRail system. This system allows you to slide the mounting rails at the front and the top of the case to accommodate larger fans. And can I just say that I am so glad that Corsair improved the design of this from the Frame 4000D. I don't know if it was just our model, but we had trouble lining up the fan mounting holes with the numbers on the case. The design on the Frame 5000D is far less confusing, and it makes a whole lot more sense. Now, there are some extra spacers that are included with the pre-installed fans that help to center the 140 millimeter fans in the front of the case. So if you're looking at swapping out fans in the future, Corsair gives you actually plenty of options. In total, the Frame 5000D can fit up to 12 140 millimeter fans. That's 12. Or 14 120 millimeter fans. That's crazy. But this is where the numbers get actually a little bit interesting. While the case has the usual mounting positions like 3 140 or 120 millimeter fans at the case front, side, and top, the Frame 5000D has mounting points for 2 120 millimeter fans on top of the PSU shroud, and then Corsair snuggles in 2 extra 140 millimeter fans below the PSU shroud like they're sneaking candy into a movie theater. Just be aware that Corsair only provides mounting screws for 2 fans at the bottom. Remember, these are different screws than the standard ones that you're used to when you buy regular fans. But if you're adding in some of Corsair's RS-140s to match the pre-installed ones, then you're going to be totally fine as they come with the longer screws you needed. Now, if you're looking for extras, what we can do is you can actually go and order them from Corsair themselves, and we have a link for that down in the description below. Now, we've got to give some kudos here for trying to get as much cooling potential as possible into this case. But this is one of those places where you, the builder, needs to decide if you'd rather have 2 fans down there or you want to have space for your front panel or your PSU cabling. What we also need to give them credit for is the nearly limitless options for using zip ties and cable management. The patterning all across the back of this case, combined with movable cable tie downs, just opens up so many possibilities for routing cables. It's awesome. Now, I wonder, just as a guess, how many zip ties I could fit down here. And you know what? Why don't you make a guess and let me know down in the comments below. Now, moving on to air cooling, you can definitely do that inside of the Frame 5000D with how much intake is coming in from the front, especially if you decide to do 200 millimeter fans. The case has 175 millimeters of clearance inside for CPU air coolers. That means you have enough space for air coolers like the Noctua NHD15G2, the Cooler Master MA824 Stealth, or maybe even Corsair's own A115, which you can actually check our review of right here. Moving on to the storage space, the Frame 5000D has room for up to 6 2.5-inch SSDs or 2 3.5-inch hard drives. For larger physical storage, there's a mounting bracket behind the PSU shroud near one of the 140mm fan mounting locations, and the other sits on a plate behind the motherboard. At least that's where we found a location that worked. As for the SSDs, there are two separate mounts on the back of the motherboard tray. It's worth pointing out that this last bracket has some handy indentations for IQ Link hubs, which we love to see, and bring an IQ Link version. As for PSU support, the Frame 5000D can support PSUs with a length of up to 250 millimeters, so plenty of room for most modern PSUs here. Like the Frame 4000D, the Frame 5000D has two thumb screws there to secure your power supply in place. I know we picked on them a little bit for only including two thumb screws on the Frame 4000D, but we kind of get it now. It's pretty handy to have those 2 points in place to get the PSU situated before getting your PSU screws mounted. It's also worth noting that we're totally here for that plastic panel pre-installed in the inside of the PSU shroud. It helps do things like diffuse RGB lighting and hide cables, but it's not going to be super helpful with airflow. One more comment before moving on to performance: the front I/O connections. The Frame 5000D has two USB 3 connections, USB-C, a unified front panel connector, and HD audio cables that match the color of the case, including, this is the most critical part, the HD audio mini cable. See, you can do it. You do not need to use multicolored cables for your HD audio cable. Come on, case manufacturers, follow Corsair's example. Guys, they have done what few other cases have dared to try. Bravo, Corsair. Now that we know the ins and outs of the Frame 5000D RS ARGB, let's take a look at the thermal performance. As a reminder, the specs for our test bench are on the screen. These are the same parts we use in all of our PC case tests every time. All of this is done at the same testing environment with the same tests and using the same Intel stock CPU power settings every time. One other really important note, guys. I know that you're looking at this saying that is not the stock settings. We absolutely tested with these stock fans. They came with the case, so that is really important, and that's the data we're going to be showing. So let's get on to the data. While at idle, the Frame 5000D RS averaged a bit over 25 degrees Celsius. This average puts it in line with cases like the Lee & Lee Landcool 217 and the Montech King 95 Ultra. Moving on to our CPU load test, the Frame 5000D averaged right in the middle between 74 and 75 degrees Celsius. This average sandwiched the Frame 5000D between the Asus RG Hyperion and the Phanteks Evolve X2. But for context, these three cases are also sandwiched in the middle of this temperature spectrum of our tested cases. It's like sandwiches inside of sandwiches. Now I'm hungry. Okay. As for gaming, the Frame 5000D held averages on the cooler side of our charts at just below 43 degrees Celsius. These temps put it in line with cases like the Antec C7 ARGB and the Montech King 95 Ultra. So overall, with an AIO, the Frame 5000D RS ARGB isn't too shabby, which can also be said about its performance with an air cooler. Since the Frame 5000D is an airflow-friendly case, we tested performance with an air cooler as well. At idle, the Frame 5000D averaged just shy of 27 degrees Celsius. This temperature average made it chummy with cases like the NZXT H6 and H7 Flow, which are definitely not bad cases to be chummy with. Now, the Frame 5000D must have become fast friends with those NZXT cases because under full CPU load, it averaged 78 degrees Celsius, which was around the same temperatures as the NZXT H6 Flow again, and the Fractal North. I guess, you know what? The H7 found some cooler friends to hang out with. And finally, in gaming, the Frame 5000D averaged a bit over 49 degrees Celsius, placing it in between the H6 Flow and the older H9 Flow. Don't worry, we'll be testing the new H9 Flow soon, so make sure you like and subscribe so you can see that video when it goes live. Under GPU load in our 1440p gaming benchmarks, the Frame 5000D held an average GPU temp between 63 and 64 degrees, but leaned toward the cooler side. This positioned it next to cases like the Be Quiet Light-Based 600LX and the King 95 Ultra. With a CPU air cooler, the Frame 5000D found its way to the warmer side of our charts, averaging around 39 degrees Celsius at idle and leaning into a 65 degrees Celsius average while gaming. When we look at the data as a whole though, even in the places where it was comparatively warmer, the Frame 5000D did a decent job keeping our test components cool. And that was without kitting it out with every fan possible. So with those thermals tested and a build or two completed, would we recommend the Frame 5000D RS ARGB as your next PC case? When we look at the whole picture, the Frame 5000D, it's a tinker's playground. And this playground is open to beginners and seasoned builders alike. The option to swap panels, brackets, and trays for different colors or functions is a pretty cool gateway to PC modding. Not only that, the overall build process is also super straightforward, which stays true to the legacy of the original Corsair 5000D. But don't mishear that. Corsair didn't just make a copycat case here. They added layers of convenience and support, from the mobile cable management to the wide range of hardware that is really only limited by the creativity of the builder, well, that and money. This kind of versatility does come at a premium. A roughly $200 premium, that is. While $200 isn't unheard of in the PC case market, it is on the moderately expensive side of things, but not enough to raise concerns. And ultimately, only you can decide whether that kind of versatility is something you would make use of. There is also the consideration of whether or not you're looking at bringing your own fans to this case. If you are, you may want to wait to see if Corsair is going to do a standalone bare bones version of this and bring it to market. But if you're okay with the price point, you like everything you've heard, and you're thinking of using the Frame 5000 DRS ARGB as your next case, we already mentioned a few things along the way that are worth considering beforehand, like fan placement, being mindful of the GPU support bracket, and PCI mounting screws. Other than those things, the building experience with the Frame 5000D RS ARGB is super straightforward. It performs well thermally, and it does provide a canvas for builders to use it in some really unique ways, especially if you're looking for a platform that can evolve over time. Just remember to bring a few extra screws if you want to fill every fan slot. And with that, this one is done. Those were our thoughts on the Corsair Frame 5000D, but we want to know what you think. Do you like this modular approach to PC cases, and how about the InfiniRail system? And what about the grid system? Do you like having the options to move your cable management? Let us know all of that in the comments below. Now while you're down there, go ahead and slap that subscribe button, whip that like button, and ring that notification bell so that you get a notification each and every time we post a video like this right here on Robeytech. And if you want to continue the conversation, talk about these questions, or maybe ask questions of your own, head over to our Discord server, discord.gg/Robeytech. It's an amazing place to talk to other tech and PC enthusiasts about stuff just like this to get the help that you might need. And you know what? You might just make a friend. Also, make sure you follow us on all your favorite social media platforms. We're at Robeytech absolutely everywhere. And if you made it this far, I want to say a huge thank you for sticking with me throughout this video. I look forward to seeing you on the next one.